So do you want to know what Pokemon has been on my mind lately? I mean, you can probably guess by the title, but it's Banette. Let me explain how this happened. On June of this year, I uploaded my very first video, where I discussed the what if scenario of Mimikyu being a Gen 1 Pokemon. And in that video, I briefly compared Mimikyu to being similar to Banette. This would then lead me down a rabbit hole that would end in Banette becoming my second favorite Pokemon of all time. I'm not joking, I'm dead serious. And dare I say, Banette may have actually become my favorite Pokemon of all time if I had some nostalgic connection to it, or if Banette was better and competitive, but I'll get to that later. My newfound Banette appreciation truly got started at July of this year, when I bred a semi-perfect IV Banette. It has best in every stat except for its special attack stat, but you know, I can just hyper-train that. Especially since this Banette took way more eggs than the semi-perfect Mimikyu that I bred a few years back. After this instance, I would then get my hands on a Banette plush a month later, which now sits comfortably next to my Mimikyu plush. I mean, hey, the Mimikyu and Banette I bred are technically siblings, since they came from the same Ditto. And so now, as a proud new member of the Banette Appreciation Club, I must say something. Banette needs a buff. And I've come up with the ways Banette can, and should, be buffed to get the respect it deserves in the competitive scene. The most obvious is better stats, but I've also come up with a new ability setup, some existing moves that Banette should be given, a signature item that only Banette can use, and a signature move that Banette could have. So first up is the stats. Right now, Banette's stats are 64 for HP, 115 for attack, 65 for defense, 83 for special attack, 63 for special defense, and 65 for speed. Do you guys see the problem here? Because if you don't, let me point it out. Banette is a glass can that is as slow as it is frail. Quite literally, since the speed stat and defense stat are the exact same number, and the HP and special defense stats are pretty close too. It just baffles me that Game Freak would do this. Actually, I totally believe it. And this sort of leads me into a rant I've been holding in. Within the ghost types, nearly every ghost type is either a speedy special attacker or a slow, bulky physical attacker. There are little to no speedy physical attackers. The only ones I can think of are Mimikyu and Dragapult. 2 Pokemon. I know that Ghost is the second rarest type in Pokemon, but you mean to tell me that in the 25 years Pokemon has been around, we've only gotten 2 speedy physical attacking Ghost types? And it took until Sun and Moon to get the first one. Now this leads me back to Banette. The stat buff I would give Banette is simple. Make Banette faster. In the past, Pokemon have gotten stat buffs between 10 and 30 extra base stat points. So using this number, we can buff Banette to go from having a base speed stat of 65 to 95. Or heck, spreading the 30 points between speed, defense, and special defense might also be good. Now of course, this would boost Banette's base stat total to go from 455 to 485. And I know that Banette has a Mega, but Game Freak has been ignoring Mega since Sun and Moon, so I don't think it matters. However, if a stat buff isn't the way to go, then maybe giving Banette a new set of abilities is what's needed. Currently, Banette is known to have 4 abilities. Its base abilities are Insomnia and Frisk, its hidden ability is Cursed Body, and its mega ability is Prankster. Personally, the way I would have done things is get rid of Frisk, and instead make Banette's base abilities Insomnia and Cursed Body, and then make Banette's hidden ability Prankster. Again, Game Freak has moved away from Mega Evolutions, and even if they didn't, I don't see why a Pokemon's Mega ability can't just be its hidden ability. I think a change like this would be incredible for Banette. Prankster is practically seen as the only way for Banette to be viable and competitive anyways, so why not just allow Banette to have it, regardless of what form it's in. Next up is a moveset change. Something that really annoys me is that Banette doesn't learn a single stat buffing move. Yeah, Banette learns moves that can hinder the opponent, like Will-O-Wisp and Thunder Wave, but it criminally cannot learn moves like Swords Dance or even Hone Claws. Banette should also get moves that can increase speed. I mean, its whole thing is that it will pursue the child to abandon it, so why not let it learn moves that can make it quick enough to do just that? Also, Banette should learn Play Rough. I think the only reason it couldn't learn Play Rough before was because Play Rough was only made into a TM after Sun and Moon. So once Banette is in a game where the Play Rough TM exists, I think it should learn it. Now we get on to the signature item. Signature items aren't too rare in Pokemon. Examples of Pokemon who have signature items are Pikachu with the Light Ball, Ditto with the Quick Powder, and the Eon Duo's Life Dew. Now let's just say that Banette's stats were to stay the same. While I think having a slow glass cannon is just stupid design, it would be less stupid if Banette's signature item made it into an evasion tank. The signature item I propose for Banette would be called the Bane Mask. The description of the item would be along the lines of a terrifying mask that can scare an opposing Pokemon so much that their aim is less accurate, but can only be worn by a certain species. And that species is, of course, Banette. The Bane Mask is basically an upgraded Bright Powder. According to Bulbapedia, Bright Powder reduces accuracy of moves targeting the holder by 10% of what their accuracy would otherwise be. So for example, Thunderbolt, a 100% accurate move, is reduced to 90% accuracy if the opposing Pokemon is holding Bright Powder. The Bane Mask is twice as potent as Bright Powder, lowering the opposing Pokemon's accuracy by 20%. So in our Thunderbolt example, Thunderbolt against a Bane Mask Banette would go from 100% accurate to 80% accurate. Though in case this would be overpowered, I'd settle for just lowering the opposing Pokemon's accuracy by 15%. Still better than Bright Powder, but maybe not game-breaking good. And now, the final way I think Banette could be buffed is a signature move. Now before anyone points out that it'd be odd to give a Gen 3 Pokemon a signature move, when looking into it, giving an older Pokemon a signature move long after its introduction is something that's been done before. In Sun and Moon, Crocodile was given Power Trip. And before you argue that Crocodile is a Gen 5 Pokemon, introduced after Banette, Ariados, a Gen 2 Pokemon, was also given a signature move in Sun and Moon. In fact, Toxic Threat is still Ariados' signature move, since no other Pokemon can learn in Sword and Shield. As such, I believe that giving Banette a signature move is fair game. The move I've come up with is called Phantom Strike, after a Miitopia skill of the same name. This move will be a physical ghost type move of course, with 80 base power, 100% accuracy, 5 PP, and plus 2 priority. This move is basically ghost type extreme speed. This is just the move a Pokemon like Banette needs. It has high power, taking advantage of Banette's high attack stat, and has high priority, making Banette's low speed stat a non-issue for at least 5 turns, 8 with PP ups. And of course, like what happens to most signature moves, the following generation, Phantom Strike could be given to other Pokemon who could use it, such as Trevenant and Dusknoir, and even some non-ghost types like Lanoon and Lucario to name a few. And those are the ways I think Banette should be buffed. I await the day Banette is shown some respect by Game Freak, and given one of these buffs, or something equivalent, I've really come to appreciate Banette, and dare I say again, if I had some nostalgia for Banette, it may have even become my absolute favorite. It's definitely a close second as it is. As such, it baffles me that way back when I did tier lists on my Instagram account, I put Banette and Beach on my ghost type tier list, and put Sableye as my favorite honed ghost type. Oh, times have changed. Banette now being my second favorite Pokemon, after sneaking its way into my heart over the course of one summer. And you know what? Even if Banette's never given anything to make it viable and competitive, it won't change how I feel about it, because no matter what anyone says, Banette will always be top tier to me. Have a nice day.